Welcome back to the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. I'm your host, Deepak Saini. I believe that a big part of healthy aging and reversing the effects of aging is, and stop. I screwed up and I forgot something
Okay,
else. You
no
know what's in my
worries.
head here? Krista, cut this part out. Todisco.
Right, like going out to disco. You got it.
Todisco. Okay. I
Yes.
was just starting to read it and I said, and I didn't ask properly. Okay, we're gonna hit it from the top here. Okay,
Okay,
Krista,
perfect.
cut this first part out. Welcome back to the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. I'm your host, Deepak Saini. I believe that a big part of healthy aging and reversing the effects of aging is living in a toxic-free world as much as possible and being as close to nature and being as earth-friendly as we all can with our own personal lifestyles. I'd like to introduce you to my guest today, Amy Todisco. When you meet Amy, you will hear, see, and feel her passion for teaching people how to live a less toxic, more earth-friendly, and healthier life. For over 28 years, she's been a nationally recognized green living expert and mentor who got the attention of Oprah. We're going to talk about that for sure. She's also been a transformational life reinvention coach for 15 years and a personal growth and wellness retreat leader for over 9 years. Amy is also the technical editor of the book Green Living for Dummies and lives on and helps run a certified organic farm in Vermont. And that's actually my dream to have my own certified organic farm someday. So, Amy, thank you for being on the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit.
Ah, my pleasure. Totally excited.
So, I like to always start with how did you get to where you're at today? Most kids, I want to be a fireman, policeman, doctor, nurse, astronaut, whatever. Not, not what the two of us usually do. So I always like to ask, how did you get to where you're doing today?
So that's a great question. And it certainly wasn't necessarily on my path to become a green living expert and mentor and coach, although I was a psychology major in college. So I was always interested in what people do, how they make choices. I'm all about really being a catalyst for change. I kind of realized that fairly young. But my unique background of growing up with a mom who was really into nutrition, so we ate very good food. I had a chef stepfather, so I learned how to cook and still, cook from scratch pretty much every day. And so my first sort of big turning point was when I was 16. I had a job at a health food store in New York City where I grew up. And I learned about organic food and all these different natural supplements and vitamins and herbs and, tried juice fasts and all this different stuff. And I just was constantly in the book corner whenever I had an opportunity. And so that kind of started to inform me about there's a different way of living that isn't what most people are doing. And I have found that I'm kind of an out of the box type person anyway. So I was like, okay, let me pursue that. Um, the second big turning point was actually when I was pregnant with my daughter. I was 28. I'd always been shopping in health food stores, came across this little paperback book called The Non-Toxic Baby. And that's what really woke me up because I thought, oh my gosh, I knew the food stuff, but to realize that there were toxic synthetic chemicals in everyday products that we were using constantly, they fill our homes, whether
Sure.
it's our shampoos or, conditioners, cleaning products, furniture, carpets, you name it, everything pretty much mainstream contributes some sort of toxic load. And so being pregnant at the time, I thought, oh man, I really need to clean everything out that, I thought was toxic, find better replacements. So it was a kind of a long circuitous path that sort of brought me to the Oprah piece that you mentioned. I started a non-toxic newsletter and also a green living site where I was selling the products that I had used myself and researched and found to be the least toxic, most earth friendly, because there's a lot of greenwashing out there.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Right? You know that. And so at that point, I was, if you Googled green living expert, I was like number one or two. Now I have no idea. But somehow I got on the radar of Oprah, which may have been because of the technical editor for Green Living for Dummies book and, other stuff that I was sharing information with as many people as I could. And I got this call from her producer, and she wanted to come to my home in Vermont and actually interview me about my green living
Oh, in
lifestyle.
your home.
She was going to come to Vermont, but then at the last minute, she decided to go with a nonprofit. And honestly, I was relieved because I did not have anything set up as far as, systems or things to take advantage of that kind of notoriety. So I was like, okay, let's check the mark on being noticed, but for another time, I would love to be on, Super Soul Conversations or something like that.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Very, very cool. Very cool. I would imagine too, at the very beginning, you were saying there, working at the health food store in New York City and the
Yes.
books, you know, obviously this movement's been around. Well, essentially it's the original movement, right? If you want to call it
Correct.
that, right? But
Right.
I'm going to assume, and I'm not trying to date anything or everything, but like I would assume from our current version of like the green movement, or I would say green movement, that puts a wrong connotation, healthy living movement,
Yes.
that would have been early days. Would that be
Yes,
fair? Yeah.
exactly. It
Yeah.
was definitely early days. And so there were not as many people to learn from back then. Um, but it was kind of an exciting time because just getting that kind of information and being able to share it with so many people and sort of help people turn things around for themselves personally and then share it with others, that's really at the heart of what I love to do. It's one thing to learn it for myself and do it, but to actually make somebody else's life better by sharing information about, hey, have you thought about this? Or here's, what you could use instead of that. Or here's why eating this particular type of food and not that could be much more beneficial to your health. Those kind of
Absolutely.
things.
And I would just echo that sentiment of all our speakers in this summit, is that's ultimately their
Right.
goal, is to help as many people as they can. So,
Exactly.
Amy, how would you define, non-toxic, earth-friendly living? Like, how
Yeah,
would
so
you
that's a
define it?
really
There's,
good.
like you said earlier, there's about a lot of greenwashing. Like, what are we really
Yes.
talking about here?
Right. And so, I mean, it's a fairly broad category, but the way I look at it is really focused on food, household products, and holistic lifestyle strategy. So that would be anything from, medicinal herbs to homeopathy to just a holistic way of looking at things instead of, the Western medicine model where you jump to the doctor's office anytime you have a symptom and then they typically give you some sort of pill and you hope that it goes away, but it most of the time masks the symptoms. I'm much more interested in what is at the core, what's causing this problem, how do I fix that? So, I mean, there are other pieces to green living, such as, renewable energy and clean water, which I do focus on too, actually, because I feel like having clean water is essential. And there's so many toxins on our drinking water now. It's kind of scary. So it's really the things that we have the power to control. We don't have as much ability to control the things outdoors, whether it's a power plant or, chemical factory or latest spill on a train or whatever, but we do have the ability to control what we bring into our home, what we put into and onto and around our bodies. And so that's where I tend to focus on that part of the not toxic earth friendly living.
Got it. So, why do you feel it's so? I have my own take on this, but I'd like to hear from you. Why do you feel this message is so important to share, especially now in this time,
Yeah.
we're living?
Well, so even just based on the comparison of when I started to now, it feels like we've been moving in the wrong direction at a very fast speed. So
I
I'm
would
watching,
second that. I would second that. Sorry to
right?
interrupt, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at food and seeing lab created meat. I went to a keynote speaking engagement last Saturday about lab created meat because there's a couple of University of Vermont professors that are or one that started a company trying to create lab created meat. So I can talk about that at another point if it's interesting to you. But this the direction that we seem to be heading, which is just incredibly pharmaceutical dominated and processed food, like the amount of people, but especially Americans that are eating processed food and having such ill health is alarming. And so I feel like now more than ever, we need to sort of take back the power and make better choices and understand that our choices have an impact on ourselves, but also, on the everything we buy actually, as is a vote for whatever that is. So if we start, changing what we're spending our money on and growing our own food as much as we can, we're going to be in much better shape.
Yeah, and I really encourage people. Of course, we're all going to have our own situation, and like where I live up here in Canada, we have a very short growing seasons, and we can't grow everything just because
Yeah.
it just doesn't get hot enough. So, but yeah, whatever anyone can do, whether it be a vertical garden or some
Yes.
herbs on your windowsill,
Sunny
like whatever,
windowsill.
start
Exactly.
start start somewhere, start somewhere. So
Yes.
I love that. So,
Totally.
what are some of the ways that you're teaching people how to live a less toxic, more earth friendly life?
Yeah. So I'm actually been doing it a bit on Facebook, as you've probably noticed. Each day for about 2 months now, I've been posting typically a question to get a conversation going, to kind of open people's eyes in a more tangible way. I've done some workshops. I have a mentorship program coming up, where actually I'll take 12 weeks, of a deep dive into these different categories of food and household products and holistic lifestyle tools, so people can really get up to speed and making, changes in a very quick 12-week period to make a big difference in their lives, to live a lot less toxic, more earth friendly. Um, even just writing a blog post, anything, I feel like anything I can do to just send out some information that might be a trigger for somebody to say, maybe I should take a look at that. Maybe I should, try something new this time, or, try some more organic food, shop at a farmer's market, maybe start a garden, or, have a little hydroponic system in your home. So all of those kinds of things, anything to inspire that kind of positive change.
All right, Amy, I didn't think we are gonna go this direction, but I'm gonna put us both on the hot seat here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna share what some of the things, and hey, everyone, like, I'd love to do more. You got to live with what you got,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
I'm gonna
Can I
share a
just
couple.
add one thought on that? So I
Absolutely.
feel like progress, not perfection, is what we're going for.
Perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
yes. I said perfect. Right.
Okay.
No, progress. That's absolutely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw a couple of things that we do as in our family.
Okay.
Just a few examples.
Yep.
And I love, Amy, for you to, like, critique or thumbs up, thumbs down,
Okay.
improvement, what we could do better progress. So
Sure.
one of the things we do, and it's not for all of our animal-based products, but
Yep.
we do, for at least for our beef, we order a half cow at a time from a farmer who, sustainably raised, organic, ethical, everything. As you still end up killing the animal. So that's what we do. At least for
Right.
our beef, that's what we do when we can.
Right.
And it's not always available, although it's getting better. But sometimes it's just a cost thing too. We try and get free range eggs as
Yep.
best as we can, or from actually, we have some neighbors that actually, a little bit further away, but let's call them our neighbors. They're close enough.
Okay.
They have their own chickens, so sometimes we buy from them, and or
Nice.
honey, just get
Yep.
honey from them. Another thing that we do is, this is quite a number of years ago, we have, for our laundry detergent, there's a company, they're not a sponsor, I'm not going to drop their name or anything like
Yep.
that, but they basically have found a way to, like, concentrate it into, like, strips. So
Oh yeah. I
not
think I have the
only,
same one.
yeah, so not only is it less harsh to chemical, like, it's an eco product, or
Yes.
eco-friendly product, and I've done research on them, so
Yes.
I'm satisfied with that. Not only is it in that sense, but also essentially it's a small envelope, gives me the same amount as one of those gigantic 4-liter jugs. So not only
Yes.
saving
No
the
plastic.
plastic
Right.
there, the transportation, the weight of
Yes.
transportation, that's all part of the process.
Absolutely.
We try and grow, we, as much as possible. I'm still trying to get my wife on board, but we don't use, like, toxic dryer sheets.
Yep.
I don't want to say
That's
all the
good.
time. Sometimes
Yep.
my wife does. We try and use dryer balls, wool
Yes.
dryer balls, and
The
stuff
wool
like
balls.
that,
Yep.
type of thing. And then another thing that we do, yeah. Oh, we have our, again, short growing season. We try and grow some vegetables, and where I
Yes.
live here, like, potatoes are, like, one of the things that actually. So it's nice to have
Oh, interesting.
home cooked, homegrown, and then cooked. Again, baked fries or whatever, like, as you
Absolutely.
head into the winter. Of course, it doesn't last us all winter because we just don't
Yes.
grow that much, but
Yes.
so try and grow as much as we can. And then I mean, again, it's kind of availability and cost is always a balance, right? Again, for everyone to do their
Yes.
thing, but for as much as possible, we try not to have, let's call it, commercial dairy.
Yep.
And I don't do dairy hardly any myself, and my kids are starting to, like, wind down on that as well, but
Oh,
as best as
nice.
you can. But sometimes it's not an option, right? So again,
Right.
you have to meet your own goals, and however it makes sense for you. But so there's a couple things. Any rooms for
Yes.
improvement, or any
Yes. So
suggestions or
those
anything
are
like that?
all definitely good things. A few little tweaks I would offer. As far as the beef goes, if you can get grass fed, grass finished,
Oh, yes. No,
it's,
sorry, I just didn't say
oh,
it.
it
Grass
is
fed, grass finished,
perfect. That's ideal.
sustainably raised, organic.
Awesome. Okay, good, good. That's
The feed
ideal.
is organic. Here's interesting tip, and
Fantastic.
we don't need to go down this tangent. I played email and phone tag with this farmer, and again, it's there's not, it's growing, I think. There's not like a
Yes.
ton. Like
Yep.
I live in Alberta, so it's actually cattle country, right? So,
Okay.
but
Oh,
it's
wow.
mostly conventional, so it's still hard to
Yeah.
find, and then when you do find them, they're all actually, because again, the movement is growing, they're all booked out. Like we
Oh,
can't take any
wow.
new customers. So I found one and
Wow.
we did this email and phone tag back and forth, and I was just like, I don't want to just buy a product from you. I want to like, and this is a family farm, third
Yeah.
generation, whatever, and it'll be like a fourth and fifth generation. And I was like, I want to build a relationship with your family. Like, can I come to your
Nice.
farm? And he was just
Aw.
like, no one asked that ever, right? So finally,
Really?
he's like, okay, we're doing a farm days. I'm inviting a bunch of past customers, potential new customers, like come. So it's about an hour and a half from our house. So we just like we made on a weekend. We just packed up. We went there, and they
That's
had a barbecue, and
fantastic.
we actually got to try, their product, and did a tour and how they
Oh, wow.
raise them and how they move them and and I'm going on and the audience is going to get bored here, but long story short, I had like 30 questions of like, blah 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 blah, like
How
how
do
do I
you
know
raise
this is our,
them?
and everything. He
Yeah.
answered them all, and I was like, okay, done. Shake
So you
hand.
are like the ideal customer for somebody like that. I mean,
Yes,
that's how I feel.
I did my homework, yeah, and
Yeah.
now we for as far as our beef, we only buy from them,
Yeah.
and
That's fantastic.
yeah.
The eggs, the only tweak I might offer would be as opposed to free range, because there's a difference between free range and pasture raised. So if you can get pasture raised organic eggs, that's the best, because that means they're actually outdoors. Free range can mean that they have access to the outdoors, but they don't necessarily go out.
Yes, you're absolutely right. And when we buy from our neighbors, they
That
are
they're running around.
we know they're running around. But
Yeah.
Amy makes a good point, and it goes back to something you said earlier about greenwashing. There's a
Yes.
lot of labels, even organic. What
Oh
does
my
that
gosh.
mean? And we could
Yeah,
do a whole hour on that, everyone.
totally.
So we're not going to. But
But if you
I'd
want to know
say
more, let
want to know
us.
more, check out with Amy, and we'll get to more about her contact info in a few minutes here. But
Yep.
there's a lot of different definitions and what they actually mean. So I really
Yep.
encourage people to really educate themselves in
Yeah, and
that.
that's definitely a piece that will be in my mentorship program, because I feel like there's so much misleading information and so much nonsense that we're being told, that I want to clarify all of those labels for people and what they really mean and which ones are meaningful, and basically how to become your own green living expert. I think that's what
Absolutely.
we all kind of are tasked with. And one of the things that I've noticed is that things keep changing. Like I thought, this certain variety of products were great until I realized, oh my gosh, some corporate entity bought this one and that one. And now, it feels like something's different about that product. Um, the laundry thing that you're talking about, I think it has the word clean in it. Is that the brand?
I don't think so. No.
Okay. So maybe it's a different one that's like that. Um, but the one I buy one that has the strips, or you can get the little pods that are in some sort of dissolvable stuff that you toss into the washer. The only thing I would say about those types of products is that sometimes the fragrances can be strong. So if you have any
Oh yeah, we
reactivity
buy
to
the fragrance
fragrance,
free one. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I made the mistake of getting the regular one of this particular brand, and I was like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's
I'm
intense.
very, here, just go off on a tangent for a second.
Yeah,
After I went through my health journey, and I'll just say I cleaned my body up. I'm
yeah.
super sensitive to things, and my wife makes fun of me saying I'm a, sensitive little delicate flower, and I'm like, I think that's a good thing, but like
Yes,
I
because
can't
you're the
go into,
canary. So
yeah.
you
So
said you notice
so
things before somebody else.
so people are going to resonate with this,
Yeah.
regardless of where you live, right?
Yes.
Canada, US, Australia, whatever. But here in
Right.
Canada, quite often, the post office is at the back of the Shoppers Drug Mart of the drugstore. So you have to go, and they design
Oh,
the store, so you have to go through the cosmetic section to get to the main part of the store. Like it's purposely designed that way because that's a
wow.
high margin area, right? So and it's
Yep.
so like I
Well,
literally
the
like
cleaning section is,
I
you'll
literally
find
have to
even
plug my
worse.
nose or hold my
Yeah.
breath as I walk through
Yeah.
the cosmetic
Yeah.
section. And people, I think they kind of know. I mean, it's not like I go there all the time, but the ladies are like, "Oh, would you like to?" And I'm just like,
Get away. Yeah.
and
Well,
go through just so I can go to the post office.
right. And what's so shocking about that to me is that we can smell these products coming out of their containers without the tops open, right? When you
Oh
walk
yeah,
down the cleaning aisle, it's
oh
overwhelming the amount of
yes,
fragrance.
I personally find it disgusting. But
It
anyway,
is. It's all
that's
volatile
just me.
organic compounds that we do
Yeah.
not want to be breathing.
I want to, something came up in my mind earlier in our conversation. I just like really quick get your take.
Sure.
The EWG, Environmental Working Group website,
Yes.
is that
Yes.
I've been using that as like, this is like I don't use the word gold standard, but like this is
Yes.
like the cutting edge of they're doing all the things. Is that still the case? Are they still the top tier of like what's
Yes and no.
environmentally friendly?
I
No.
think they've been doing amazing work and they were always my go-to. Recently I've noticed a few questionable things on their site that they've rated with like A ratings, and I even messaged them about it and I wasn't really satisfied with the answer. So I still go to them for a lot, but there's other resources that I'm looking at also, just to kind of get a broader perspective. I think that they're doing excellent work, and they've been doing a ton of research, and like their pesticide dirty list and clean 15 and whatnot is quite good, and it's really based on some very good research. But when I saw like Dawn dish liquid that's blue, so we know that first of all that's a synthetic color. That's
Right.
not a natural thing that we see in nature. That was rated highly, and I thought, that doesn't sit right with me. So I think, overall they're a great place to start, and there's other resources that I look at to. And
Okay.
actually there's a cool little app that you can get. I hate to shop on the big superstore online, whose name I shall not mention.
Yeah.
But occasionally when I do, there's a little app that you can get so that it shows you an alert to what might be toxic in each product that you select
Oh,
into your shopping cart. So that's
okay.
kind of cool.
That's cool. That's cool. I'll get that app from you
Yeah.
offline here.
Yeah.
Oh man, we could go on for so there's
I
so
know
many
there's so
things
many
here.
things we could
But
talk about.
I want to go back to, so you have a certified organic farm in Vermont. Can you tell
Yes.
us like the experience, like I mentioned earlier, like that's my dream,
Yes.
and actually I'll just share this tidbit. So like just our personal yard, right? Like I'm not going to get it certified because that doesn't make any sense, right?
Right. Right.
But from my understanding, I might have it wrong. We have so a number of years ago we went from kind of, let's call it your conventional, you know, yard treatment type of stuff,
Yep.
all these harsh chemicals.
Yep.
Then we moved to more of a natural, and I actually didn't think that was actually any better, really,
Mm.
either from like actually trying to do what it said it was trying to do versus like healthiness of it, to the
Okay.
point where just like I don't care if we have the, and again it's it's a mindset, like who cares if you have this type of lawn, or are you trying to keep up with the
Yes.
neighbors? Like I've
Yes.
gotten over that thing. So we are now 5 years of no spraying
Yep.
anything in our yard. So in my
That's
mind,
awesome.
what I've been told, and I might be this wrong, it's like you kind of need 5 years of nothing is the minimum to sort of
Yeah.
do
I
that.
mean, I
So
think,
in my mind, I'm kind of like we're our lawn is organic now. It's been
yeah.
5 years since we've done anything. But that being said, and I'd love to get your take on this too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like you can't control the mist if the neighbor is
Oh gosh, that's
spraying or
exactly where I was
whatever,
thinking.
right? So
Yeah. Yeah. So in the US, to qualify for the USDA organic label, which for me is not nearly as good of a label as like the regional one. So we have in the Northeast here, we have the Northeast Organic Farming Association, and Vermont Organic Farmers is who our actual certification is through. I feel like their standards are much higher. And what I mean by that is when the USDA got into the certification of organic, they wanted to include genetically modified organisms, sewage sludge used as fertilizer, and food irradiation. And I thought, holy mackerel, what the heck is this? This is completely the opposite of what this organic movement was built on. Now, we've been certified for, well, Dave's been certified for 30 years at least, I think. He was definitely cutting edge in his own way as far as growing vegetables and fruits. Um, I'm actually really intrigued by this whole regenerative farming movement. Now, there's kind of the chemical version of regenerative, because there's people that do no-till, but they still spray Roundup. And the thinking is, well, we're not disturbing the soil, but yet we're putting toxic
yeah,
chemicals into
I
it.
don't
So
buy
that's
that.
crazy.
I don't buy that.
Yeah. So, but I really like the organic regenerative movement. And that there's a great podcast actually called Regenerative Agriculture that I've been listening to, and fascinating conversations with all these different farmers and how they are looking at their growing as a holistic system and how they're doing things differently. So that is really appealing. But what I was going to say too about your lawn, the USDA says 3 years without chemicals and you can qualify for organic. So I think it really depends. And you've made a very good point too about you if you can't control what your neighbors are doing and that stuff is drifting onto your property, that's a problem.
Yeah.
So
So
there's
again, we're fortunate enough that, again, we don't have a farm, but we have an acreage.
yeah.
So where we grow our vegetables are closer to the house and away
Oh,
from the
good.
edge
So
of the
you have a
property.
buffer.
Have a bit
Yeah.
of a buffer, but just still, and the other way we took it too. I mean, if people have been watching all these interviews, it's come up a number of times about our dog, and we only had him for just over a year and a bit. And it's like, look, he's walking with his bare feet, and like I don't want to spray where
Right.
and I try and control where my dog walks as well. Although sometimes he wanders off and he walks onto the neighbor's yard, but
Yep.
if I know at least they put the little
The
plastic
signs.
sign
Yeah.
that they've just had a spray, then I'll keep them away for a couple
Yeah.
of days or until the next rain or whatever, what
Right.
have you. But
Exactly.
so I'm very conscious of that because again, it's
Yes.
like I don't know the stats on dogs, but I'm like I'm going to take the same stance as like it's our skin, so
Yeah.
it's
And
gonna
and there's
it's
no
gonna absorb in,
question.
and they're gonna lick
Yeah.
their feet and whatever, right? So
Right. And just so they're very vulnerable, just like, small children that are crawling on the grass and even, indoors, if your baby is crawling on a new carpet and all those fumes are, getting into them, not ideal. I actually lived in a community in Massachusetts. So I grew up in New York City, as I said, but I also lived in Massachusetts after that before I moved to Vermont. I've actually been here longer than anywhere else. But in Massachusetts, I kind of got my start in this whole green living movement because I started writing letters to the editor of the local newspaper to get a conversation going. And then I did, like a big Earth Day celebration to introduce people to how to do this. And we had green vendors, workshops, all this kind of stuff. But then we got the state did an annual cancer registry. And we found out that this tiny little seacoast community had 3 types of cancer above the state average. And people freaked out, understandably. And so I started a nonprofit to look at what are the potential environmental causes of this type of cancer. And one of the things that came out very clearly to me was the use of pesticides. And there was, teeny tiny postage stamp size lawns that people had, but they were spraying, their trees and their grass with all kinds of chemicals. And so I actually worked with the local board of health to regulate some of that, and it reduced the amount of spraying that people were doing because people started to wake up and realize, oh, wow, this is pretty scary that there's 3 types of cancer. So that motivated people to take action. Sadly, unfortunately, it's usually a crisis that
yeah,
people
that's
motivated.
unfortunate. So
Yeah.
what do you guys grow on your
So we
certified organic
grow,
farm then?
yeah, so we grow most of the vegetables that you can grow in New England, but for a few things like asparagus and, he doesn't do spinach anymore for some reason because I think it bolts too quickly. And then the fruits we grow, we have blueberry bushes and strawberries, and then we do melons. So a large array. I mean, it's kind of amazing. At this time of year, we should have 0 vegetables growing. We would have had a frost a month ago, but we still have things like green beans are still growing, eggplant, zucchini. It's crazy.
Do you guys have any like animals as well?
We used to. We've raised pigs a few times. It's too emotionally challenging for me. I mean, I feel like I'm a hypocrite in a sense because I do eat, good quality meat that has had a good life, but to do it actually is too much. I mean, I start to see how I love animals, so it's a very interesting dynamic. We've had chickens, but we have so many predators that it's hard to keep
Sure, yeah.
egg layers around. I had horses and we had alpacas, but unfortunately, they've all come and gone. So now we just have dogs inside.
Yeah. Again, this is a pipe dream maybe, but I would love to have, again, this sort of type of farm where some portion is for, maybe water buffalo or something
Oh
like that,
yeah. We had yaks at one time,
or
as a matter of
yaks.
fact.
Yeah. And again,
Yeah.
you then repurpose again, it's the regenerative part, right? So that's your fertilizer for the garden part. And
Yes.
then of course you got to move the animals around, which I think is
Right.
super
So that
important,
that
right?
really is the ideal model. If you have cattle and then you follow them by, chickens or birds that are pecking and eating, bugs and worms and that sort of thing, and then having, you know, critters like goats or sheep that eat the things that the cows don't eat. And then, like you said, you're moving them constantly. There was an amazing farm, and I don't know what happened to them, that was about close to an hour away from here, that had the most amazing system. Every day, those cattle were moved, and they had gorgeous green pastures, and it was such good quality. I don't know what happened, but that is really the ideal model.
Yeah. Like I was saying when I did this interview of this farm where we do get our meat, they move their cattle every day.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
it's very like that was part of the tours. Like they actually showed us, okay, we were actually showing how they moved them, just and just like just a little bit. Like they don't have to
Yeah.
move. It depends on the size of the herd, of course, how much room you have to give them, but very interesting. Um, so Amy, as we start to wrap up here, again, I really want like what's for someone who's just getting started, who's maybe
Yep.
watching this interview, is like, wow, you guys are way down the path. Where do I start? I don't
Yeah.
know, even know half of what you're talking about.
Yep.
Maybe like what's
Yep.
one or two, easy starting points for someone who's maybe not into this at all.
Yep. So I would say the first two things I would start with are trying to buy as much certified organic food as you can. You know, even things like wheat, because unfortunately, one of the things that happen is people we don't realize is that they're spraying wheat, conventional wheat, with Roundup in order to make it dry faster. So that means it's in every kind of bread, cereal, anything that's made out of wheat. So trying to switch that would be a really smart move. As much organic produce as you can buy and or grow. The second piece I would say that's really critical is whatever you're using for your laundry, you realize you're in it all day in your clothes and then you're sleeping in it in your bedding. So if you can swap that to, a much less toxic, no scent kind of product that's earth friendly, that is a really good first move.
Love it. I love it. I think those are easy things to do for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
So this is the Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit. So Amy, besides, kind of what we've been talking about with, the type of, your food
Yep.
quality and, maybe some of the chemicals in your cleaning and et cetera, what
Yes.
do you personally do? Maybe one or two, do you personally do to reverse the effects of aging?
So managing stress and getting exercise and being outdoors as much as I can. I find those are critical, and taking natural supplements. Like, if I make a smoothie, maybe I'll throw some, grass-fed collagen into it. I'm fairly lucky in that my genes, I inherited some pretty good genes for looking a lot younger than my years. But I feel like the healthy lifestyle has made a huge difference in keeping me much more youthful feeling so I can do, a lot more with my body and feel good, even in the second half of life.
Yeah, and I'm just going to say this because maybe people this may or may not resonate with everyone, but I'm gonna make an assumption here, and Amy, you tell me if I'm wrong. I bet
Okay.
you're doing so much stuff around your farm, and of course, not everyone's going to have a farm,
Right.
but even for our own garden, like that is good
Yes.
movement, that is good
Absolutely.
exercise.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's a replacement for doing some walking and some low level sort of zone 2 type of things, but
Right.
doing gardening or whatever, chopping wood, clearing your property, whatever the case
Yeah.
may
I
be,
mean,
that's good. Actually, you don't have to go to a CrossFit gym is what I'm basically saying.
exactly.
You can do
Exactly.
stuff around your yard.
Gardening can definitely be that. And I do walk every day with the dog. So it's, both of those pieces keep me in pretty good shape.
Awesome,
But
awesome.
then I don't do it in the winter with the farming because we shut down
Yeah, of
like the
course.
end of, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So Amy has two gifts for the audience here. So the first one is a free ebook. Well, we'll put the drop link and we'll put all of Amy's
yeah,
contact
it's a
information,
long title.
everything. Yeah, I was just gonna read it and then I was like, no, this is a bit too long.
Yeah. No, well,
We'll put it all underneath the interview, but could you just for the ebook, just briefly tell the audience what the ebook is about?
yep. So I offer, well, actually, one of the starting points. So I talk about the pesticides in produce and then a couple of other easy to, make changes with some background. So it helps you understand why these things are important. And it's a pretty quick, easy read. It's got some pictures to break up the text, so it's more interesting. But yeah, it's a great first step.
So awesome. So
Forward.
everyone, if
Yeah,
again, if you're like, what are you guys talking about? Or I want
exactly.
to maybe I'm doing a few things, but I may doing enough. I'm up my game. Download this free guide. And
Totally.
then the second gift is Amy. She kind of mentioned it a little bit earlier. She has a online mentoring program. It's a 12-week program to a less toxic, more earth-friendly, and healthier you. And she is offering 50% off this course for the attendees of this summit. So that's very generous. So
Yeah.
again, Amy, just really high level, like what can people expect from this course?
Yeah, so that's going to be a once a week on Zoom for 12 weeks. And it's going to be guided by who shows up. So I'm going to have 20 people and we'll do an assessment ahead of time so I know exactly what areas these folks are interested in. Deep dive into food, all of the different pieces that you need to know about what to avoid, what to choose instead. Talked about the labels, get in deep into the household products topic, and then all the holistic lifestyle strategies. So I'll have probably a naturopath come and speak and some other, holistic type folks, herbalists that can actually look at, okay, what's what are people in this group dealing with? Okay, here are some things that you can try. So it's going to be a real sort of step towards expertise at being your own green living expert.
That's amazing. So yeah, if anyone's ever interested in, just, getting that knowledge, what, up to you, of course, what you're going to incorporate from that. But
Yeah.
again, nice 50% off a discount on that. So definitely check that out. And again, the link for that will also be below the video of this.
Yep.
And yeah, I also just want to remind everyone that, not only if you want to watch this interview again with Amy and all our speakers, don't forget to upgrade to the VIP package. So just $97, get all the recordings and some other bonuses, $97 during the summit. The price will go up after the summit. And also don't forget to check out our sponsors who are supporting this event to make it free for all of you to attend. Companies like STEM Regen, and HBot USA. Amy, I want to thank you again for participating in Reverse the Effects of Aging Summit.
My pleasure. It was a blast. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. And everyone, I will see you on to the next interview.